Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 52, Products and Services. Development! Woohoo!
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my god, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, welcome to Small Biz Life. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for being with us again this week. If you are a brand new listener, welcome to the show.
Yes, we love having you.
My name's Kristin Ingram.
And I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And we are your host on this journey through the small biz life. Why is that funny?
I don't know. I'm in a giggly mood today.
Oh, that'll be good.
Excellent.
So this show is for small business owners by a couple of small business owners. We have over 30 years combined experience working with small business, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
And we're only 22, which is really impressive.
Yeah, we started when we were really young. But we are small business owners and we know what it's like. You know, it's funny because we're recording this Labor Day weekend. Everybody's like, yay, Labor Day, day off. It's a holiday. I'm like, what's that? Really?
You know, I've always thought it is ironic that on the day we celebrate labor, we don't work. We should call it Unlabor Day. And I'm fine with having an Unlabor Day, but, you know, I mean, we shouldn't really call it Labor Day and then not work. It just doesn't seem right.
Lack of Labor Day?
Lack of Labor Day. Ooh.
There you go. But so I know that a lot of small businesses are actually going to be working this weekend. So this episode actually drops on Labor Day.
Yes. So happy Labor Day to those who will be laboring.
That's right. So if you listen to episode 51, we talked a little bit about how the fall is a really good time for a lot of small businesses to start planning. And so in that planning process, you need to be thinking about what products or services you want to highlight or you want to develop for next year.
And I think this is going to be heavily focused on a lot of the small businesses out there that are focused for online products and services. Like they have a vision that they want to do that. But I find from talking to people who are starting those types of businesses, they struggle the most with this because one, they're kind of unsure, how do you create these digital products for people? How do you actually go through this process? It's easier when you're creating something to sell that's physical, but when it's virtual, it's a lot harder to really get your mind wrapped around what's a product, what's a brand.
Right. And I even think that people that are developing physical products go through this, or when you're trying to figure out, like, you want to have a retail presence, what are you going to sell? Mm-hmm. Because we have our own perception of what's needed, and that's not necessarily the perception that our customers have or what their needs are.
Yeah. And I think for some people, this is scary because this is the part where, especially if you're doing something that's more content-based, where you're thinking about, well, I have to start making money because I want to keep doing this, but I feel a little awkward charging money. And so let's figure out how's a good way to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. I think the first thing that you need to do when you start this process is you need to figure out what products or services you're currently selling if you're already in business.
Yes.
So I kind of want you to put together a menu of what you do.
Delicious.
Not that kind of menu.
Or it could be.
Well, it could be if you're a restaurant, but yeah. But I think a lot of small businesses kind of fail in this realm that we're not really good at explaining to people exactly what it is we do because we don't want to put a limit and turn off a customer.
Yes.
And so I see a lot of businesses that I go to their website and I can't really tell what it is they do. You know,
especially on websites, horrible typically at explaining what companies do.
So, you know, and I've seen this from like brick and mortar businesses. A lot of service-based businesses are very cryptic about what they do.
And a lot of big businesses are horrible at it too. You go to their website, you go to their about page, and you hear about all the wonderful things that they're doing as a company. But unless they're typically a retail establishment, they're usually pretty poor at sharing what they do.
Right. So I really want you to kind of dial in, you know, over the next couple weeks and say, all right, what is it that we do? Like, what do we currently offer? What do the price points look like? And look at your own website to see if your customers understand what it is you do.
And there are lots of reasons to go to your social media, to go back to all of the interactions you have with your customers. And we'll be going back to that concept over and over again, because that's ultimately the biggest idea here that you need to understand is this is not a straightforward process where 1, 2, 3, you're done. It's going to be an iterative cycle until you get to the products that you need.
Well, and here's the thing. The reason that this is the starting point is because this will show you if there are gaps that you need to fill, maybe with new products or new services. This may provide you clarity for things that, hey, maybe we offer this service, but it hasn't really resonated well with people.
Yeah. Are we just duplicating effort because of something else that hasn't really done well?
Right. So, you know, look at everything you're currently offering. And if you don't have a menu, put one together.
Yeah. And the great thing is, too, is when you have an idea of what you offer, a lot of times from a scalability standpoint of offering more products, it's easier to work off of either laterally, vertically, you know, or horizontally. One of those two directions, it's typically easier to build products off of a central starting point.
Right. So, you know, one of the things that I want you to do as you start brainstorming is you really need to pay attention to the things that are working for you now. And it's really funny because we kind of experience this in our own product development. That, I mean, Jeff has worked in IT for a really long time. I've worked with businesses for a really long time. And, you know, I've learned a lot of technical stuff along the way. And I think that we sometimes get lost in what is easy for other people and what is understandable for other people.
Well, the thing is, for both of us, for a while, that's been central to what we do. So we do a lot of research into products that are out there that can help us. We do a lot of research. And we learn a lot of stuff because, one, we find it interesting, and two, it aids us in what we're doing. And the problem is, and this is, I think, a problem people have in the areas that you're good with, whether it's technology or accounting or selling yarn or selling school lessons to other teachers, whatever it is that you do, you are so knowledgeable, you don't know half the things that you are actually doing to get your job done. You're just performing those because they become routine over time.
Well, so I'm going to give you an example, and we're going to be like really transparent with you guys here. So we did a webinar last week on just like different tools that you can use in your business. So we looked at different email service providers. We looked at different technologies that you can use for your website. We went through a number of different just like apps and stuff that we like. And it was funny because when we were putting this together, we were like, is this like value? Like, are people going to like think that this is valuable? You know, we talked about like Buffer and Hootsuite and Edgar and, you know, all these different social media schedulers. And we were just kind of like, I don't know if this is really valuable. Like,
there's certain value, but people are going to get something in one part of it, but not necessarily all of it.
But, you know, from like, we like researching new products. And I think for a lot of small business owners, they think that that's really overwhelming because there's so many different options. Like, the response that we got from that webinar was amazing.
Yeah.
And we were like, you know, there's value here, like in doing that research for people and helping them understand their options. And so I think originally we thought, well, we're not really going to develop this webinar into its own course.
No.
And now we are.
Yeah.
Because people just thought like, all the research that we did in presenting it in one place was really valuable for them.
And seeing why certain tools might cost more money, but might bring so much extra value that you're willing to try and find the budget to pay for something more expensive, like an Edgar, versus other tools that are maybe less expensive or free that maybe provide a similar but not quite the thing that you need from it.
So that's the thing. So, when you're kind of going through and trying to figure out where you want to expand your products and services, look at the questions that your customers ask you. Think about, this is why it's really valuable to be in other people's Facebook groups, because you can kind of see the questions that they're asking and what struggles, people have.
Yeah. And that's the thing that you need to take away from their groups. Don't use people's groups to build your business and audience, but use it to understand your audience better.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that has been, the holding the webinars has been a great way for us to gather information and kind of see like where people's struggles are. Mm-hmm. And so kind of when you're going through the brainstorming process, pay attention to what people are looking for, and then look at your own most successful content. Mm-hmm. So if you are a blogger or you're on Periscope or you're on Twitter, think about the posts and the content that you have that gain a lot of traction. Mm-hmm. One of the episodes that did really well for us recently, as we were resharing it out, was the episode that we did on Facebook groups and pages and profiles.
Which once again, for us, we thought it's kind of a basic thing, but
I think there's still like a lot of confusion, like how do you use those pieces? And, and I still see that a lot of people, are making some very basic mistakes on Facebook.
Yeah, like if you create a group and treat it like a Facebook page and just feed your content through it, it goes dead.
Right. Or even, even simple things like if you're interacting with groups, people are going to click on your personal profile. Now, there are ways that you can lock down your posts, but guys, if you don't have a link to your business in your profile,
when they go there, they won't see it.
Right, exactly. And, I see that all the time, that I'm like, wow, this person's really interesting, or, they've given some really good perspectives, and I click on their profile and they have everything so locked down that you can't even see what their business is.
Or worst of all, for the people who are starting off, who are working full-time somewhere else, they have that listed as their job, which might be true. But if you're trying to move your business somewhere else, that's the more important thing to have there, not your current day job.
Exactly. So, the great thing with social media is you get to pick what you put in your profile.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to build a business, your business should be listed as your job.
Yes.
And, first thing, top of the profile with a list, with a link to your page so that people can like your page and engage with you more. Okay. So that's one big thing that you can do. So when you're brainstorming ideas, I want you to think about how much bandwidth you have in your schedule. Because
it's a weird way to put it.
Well, I mean, but it's true, right? So how, and if you've gone through and you've done your time budget and your master schedule,
which you should have,
right? Because there are a lot of people on that webinar. You want to make sure that whatever you're developing, that you've got the time to maintain it.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing that a lot of people go to first when they decide that they're going to start a business is a lot of what they're doing is one-on-one consulting or coaching or, even like graphic designers, they're doing work for each customer. And that is a great way to start your business because there's very low overhead and you develop relationships with clients, and that's awesome.
And you need a lot less clients typically to fill your time to pay you.
Right. The problem is that is not scalable.
No.
Right? Because you only have so many hours in the week that you can work with clients one-on-one. And so you're limiting your income potential if that's all you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I kind of want you to think as you're brainstorming, think about less, strict billable time, or less one-to-one, and think about what other types of things that you can do. So things like having small groups or running a paid mastermind, having courses, writing, even if you write short guidebooks or long form books, you could do membership sites. You can put together packages for services. There's lots of different things you can do.
And here's the hint. If you're an author and you've written a book, that might be a low entry product point into a line of products that you offer based off the content of the book.
Right. So, kind of think about like, what is your area of expertise, and then see how you can scale that out.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of health coaches are starting to get into like group programs, or they're offering nutrition courses. I know Emily Olson is doing a Whole Foods nutrition course. That's a way that you can kind of scale out, right, from just doing one-to-one. And it's great because, you can typically, when you're doing a course, because you have scale, you can offer a lower price point than if people were doing this work with you individually.
Yeah.
And so as you're brainstorming your ideas, think about price points. Do you have an entry-level product? Do you have a mid-range product, which is maybe like a course or, a live group interaction? And then your highest tier should be people working with you one-on-one. Because your time one-on-one, you can't scale that out.
Yeah.
That's your most valuable time, and you should be charging the most for that. Okay, so that's really important. Okay, so once you've kind of brainstormed out some ideas, now's the time to go out to your audience and share those ideas. Now, remember, these are, when you're first brainstorming ideas, these aren't like concrete products.
No.
These are topics.
And you might have ideas for products. If you're like Kristin and I, you probably have an idea of where you think you're going.
So many product ideas. There's not enough time in the day.
But the idea is, and this is how you use your free content to offer value to people while you're working this through, because you're sharing out these ideas and you're seeing what sticks, what other questions come up. This is an iterative process.
Right. So, you're kind of at the idea stage right now. This is topical kind of stuff. So, I'm thinking about doing a course on, time management for small business owners, which is something that we're working on right now. And, is this something that resonates? So we actually did a webinar on this topic that we recorded, and it's going to be part of the course. And the feedback that we got from people was really good. And this was something that, the topics that we were talking about resonated with people, especially like the time budgeting piece really resonated with people. And so we're like, all right, we're on the right track, right? And, the signups for that webinar were really good. Like, it was a topic that people were interested in. So we got validation from, our audience that, hey, this is something people struggle with.
Yeah. And, and the irony is our initial plans for where we thought we would be going in the next 100 days completely changed with the last two webinars.
Yeah, they did.
And it's because of so much great feedback that we got. We're like, wait, we're thinking about this wrong. We need to go here.
Right. So that's the thing. So, we've decided that instead of going for, a major course, that we're actually going to do a lot of smaller courses on very specific topics. Yeah. And it, when you think about, okay, who is my avatar? My avatar is a very busy person who probably doesn't have, 6 to 8 weeks to invest in a big course.
Mm-hmm.
So let's think about some smaller courses that can help them recapture some more of their time so that maybe in a year they do have the time to do that big 6 to 8 week course.
And the other thing to keep in mind in here too is as you're starting to work these products out into something scalable, you need to start reversing the mindset that you have if you've started off dealing with like client-based businesses or gig-based businesses. Your time becomes more valuable than the information. So the more that your time is directly involved in a product, the more expensive your price point moves to. The more you can take your time out of it once it's developed, the less expensive it is. So, and development time, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about strictly the point for which you go forward. So, as you scale out, let's say you're a graphic designer and you come up with this idea of how to make more money than doing client-based work. When you do client-based work, you're charging a higher price point for that. If you're working with people specifically to help maybe make their skills as a graphic designer better so they can get more client work, that's a higher rated thing than a video course showing how to use Photoshop.
Right. Or even, as a graphic designer, putting together a course on how to put together design elements, how to choose fonts, how to choose colors. Mm-hmm. We actually, one of the courses that we bought from Sumo Me is all about that.
Yeah.
And, it was a really inexpensive course. I think it was like $20. Mm-hmm. But it's all about like how to put together design elements. Mm-hmm. So if you kind of, think about like what you do for people, and is there a portion of that you can turn into a book or a course or a small group training or something like that in order to scale yourself out a little bit?
Yeah.
So, take the feedback that you get from your audience and start kind of incorporating that into, take those kind of brainstormed ideas and turn them into product.
Yeah. And the idea is you're going to learn and that you don't want to overplan your product and have your product 100% ready before you launch, especially when you're starting out the first time. And the problem is what happens is if you start off with everything 100% in place and then try and sell it, it goes from being a product that is adding value to the lives of your customers to your baby that you are trying to have the world recognize the greatness of your baby. And guess what? You get desperate, you get upset, you get frustrated because you're trying to sell this idea that you have a preconceived notion is what you want to a preconceived group of people. You might be targeting the wrong people. You might be trying to do it in the wrong way. You don't have the experience yet to be able to deliver the product. And that could be part of the problem. So don't over plan your product before you launch until you have practice at doing it, because you're still learning the people who you're really going to connect with and how they really need to be interacted with. You won't really know that until you do it.
Well, and, I do this when I do course development for the university. Every semester I will put together a master schedule for the course that these are the things that we're going to cover and this is the pace that we're going to cover it at. And it always changes.
Yeah.
Because you find that there are some topics that your students pick up really quickly, or maybe you thought that they'd be really engaged in a topic and they're not, or you find that there are things that they're struggling with, and so you want to spend more time with those topics. And I think the same thing happens with product development, especially if you're doing courses. Mm-hmm. And most of the people that are very successful in course development, they are recording content as the course is going on, because that allows them to kind of change direction and take the feedback that they're getting. So they have a general outline that they're using to sell the course, but then they might kind of get ideas from interacting with the people in the course and decide, okay, you know what, we don't need an hour worth of content on this topic, but maybe we need more content on another topic instead.
And if you've ever heard of this idea of a seed launch, that's exactly what it is, where you're learning how to market the product as you're doing that step. And then once you have the product and you're into that part, you're actually developing your product as you're going along. A lot of times, these people don't have anything beyond an outline and ideas of what they want to cover under each point. But like Kristin's saying, though, they're developing a better product because they're delivering the needs of the people who actually took the time to take the risk on the actual original launch.
Right. And that's a big thing that Jeff Walker pushes. If you read his book Launch, or if you take Product Launch Formula, the first time you develop a product, you're doing it with the customers there, because then you can incorporate their feedback and their needs.
And I can't tell you how much better our show is because of our group and interacting with our listeners, because that's exactly what we do. And a lot of times people give us feedback about how they feel like we're talking to them, and it might not be specifically to them, but a question that they said in the Facebook group the week before might have spurred an idea for an episode that we're doing this week.
Right, exactly. So once you've kind of incorporated the feedback, you determine your first product or service, then you start to share that with your audience. Yeah. And what you're trying to do is, again, you're trying to get more feedback on whether or not that this is something that they would actually buy.
You know who does a great job of this? You're going to be shocked by this one, Kristin.
Who?
Michael Hyatt.
Oh, yes.
And I saw him save himself. And this is a guy who's super experienced at doing this. I mean, before he even started his own business, he was doing this. When he was the CEO of a publishing company.
Thomas Nelson.
And, he'll create these Facebook groups, get people from his group into them that are interested in the topic, talking about he's developing a course. And a lot of it is, hey, here's the logo. What do you think? And I remember the one, I forget which product it was, because he does this a lot. He's like showing off the logo of his new product. And there's ones like, we're really proud of this. Let us know what you think. Here are a few different examples. Which one do you like the best? And the group ate up every single possibility that they were proud of.
Mm-hmm. So, that's a really good way when you're trying to develop a new product, is to start a group to get feedback from people.
And for all you authors out there, especially the fiction authors like myself, who always whine about, none of these techniques work, bullcrap. Show like, oh, here's a draft of my cover art. What do you think? Get feedback. And they're like, what's the title? I can't tell. What's this? I can't tell. And a lot of times, we'll go into groups as business owners and like show logos that we're planning and get feedback from other business peers, which is not a bad idea to start off with. But ultimately, does your audience get it? Do they like it? Does it work for them?
Well, and I know when you launched World Builders Anvil, you put your original cover art into a group of podcasters.
Oh, and they ate the crap out of it.
Right, and they tore it apart.
Thank you, Podcasters Paradise, because they made the logo so much better. They made my launch so much better. It was unbelievable.
Right. So, a lot of times I think we try to develop things in a bubble. And Jeff and I have done this before too. We're like, all right, we got this really good idea and we're going to put it together. And then people are like, yeah, no. But this really simple thing that you did for free, I'd pay for that. And you're like, okay, all right, that's cool. So it's really important to make sure that you're keeping your audience involved. Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is that really gets them excited about your products, because they feel like they're a part of the development of it.
It gives them ownership, and that's always the argument about it. Is it's especially for those people who gave you the feedback, like the font should be different. When they see that font different and you're selling it, they're sharing it off, showing off, bragging about how they helped make that font. So it might not even be to sell the course or to sell the product, but it's just pride that they helped do that one thing.
Right. And that's, with Michael Hyatt's latest course, I kind of like, I felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because like I'm on like a course diet right now that I'm not buying any courses.
Which is difficult because there's so many good ones.
Yeah, because like last year was our education year and we bought a ton of courses and we digested a ton of stuff, and then this year is like the rollout year. And so when I'm like, oh God, I really want to get that course. I really want to get that course, because like I had been in the group and kind of saw the evolution of how things were changing. And, Michael Hyatt was so great about incorporating feedback and engaging with people. And it was a really big group. There were a ton of people in there.
And for all of us novice product designers, think about that. This is a very experienced guy who probably could come out with a well-selling product from just his imagination and working with people. He's going to this time in detail because he wants to maximize the benefit not only for himself financially, but for the audience who's going to pay for it. Because ultimately, that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to deliver a product that they're not only willing to pay for, but they're going to get the most value out of.
Right. So, that we're a big fan of Facebook groups. Facebook groups are a great way to interact with your audience. They're a great way to build community, get people invested in your brand. If you do not have a Facebook group for your brand, we highly recommend that you start one.
Yeah.
Because that is the place that you can go in and say, hey guys, what do you think about this?
Yes.
What are your struggles? With the time management piece, you can go in and say, okay, what is the biggest struggle for you? And then incorporate that into what you're doing. So, you can't, the biggest takeaway that I want you to get from this episode is that you can't develop things in a bubble.
No. And you can hurt yourself if you do that because you personalize the product at that point and it becomes less about the value you're delivering and upset and frustration that people aren't seeing the value you're trying to give them.
And I think, another point that is super important as you're developing your list of products and services, you're determining what you do and what you don't do. And as you put together, kind of a list of complementary services that you don't offer, reach out to people who do. So if you are in, if you're in web design, okay, and you're like kind of the technical person, you should have a graphic designer you work with. If you're in IT, kind of on the hardware side and the software side of things, you should have a web developer and a graphic designer that you work with. Yeah. Because a lot of customers don't understand the differentiation.
No.
When I work with people as a CPA, I don't do financial services.
Yeah.
But I have a list of a whole bunch of financial services people that I can refer people to. I have a list of realtors that I can, refer people to. Yeah. I have a list of attorneys that I can refer people to.
And I think it's very important too, especially when customers struggle with what you do, that you're very clear and upfront from the beginning about the things that you don't do. When we develop requirements for a new system, we call this stuff that is out of scope. And it's as important as saying what is in scope because you need to know where the line is drawn. So like if you are a web designer, you create websites for people, you have to understand that, unless you actually do hosting yourself, that they understand that hosting is something that they need and here are places to go to do it, that's not something that's just going to magically appear for them. And that's not a new cost that you're dropping on them at the end saying, oh, I developed your website. It's at this hosting company. Here's your login. It's going to cost you X number of dollars a month. They're like, wait, I already paid you.
Well, and, the thing is, it's like when you're working with an editor, and people think like the editor does everything. And when, Jeff and I have discovered as we're looking into publishing his books, you need an editor, you need a graphic designer, you need a layout person, you need a formatter.
Well, and saying the word editor is wrong because there are several types of editors. They all do different things and some are similar and you get certain similar types of things from certain types of editors, but there's at least 4 kinds of editors that I can think of right now.
Right. So, it's really important to let your customers know where your boundaries are.
And what's around you.
Right. Because I think a lot of times when we have bad experiences with customers or customers have a bad experience with a business, it's because we don't put boundaries in place for where our job begins and ends and where someone else's should begin.
And when we're starting off, that's the most important, because if you don't do that service, but you think you might be able to wing it for this customer and you need the money, you shouldn't do it.
Right. I've seen like posts recently on Facebook where they're like, if you don't know how to do something and a customer asks you to do it, just learn how to do it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Be awesome at what you do and stick with that.
That's right. Focus your time and energy on your strengths. And if it's something that you are interested in learning, do it, but you can't treat it like this is something that you now do, because if you struggle with it, it's only going to frustrate the customer and maybe you're not delivering the correct product.
Well, and you're not focusing on what you're really good at, right? So you're stretching yourself thin. And so I think that's a big struggle for me, because there are so many things that I'm interested in, but I won't work with a client on something unless I've had proven success with it.
Yeah. And I think the thing is too, and this is why like Brendan Burchard he'll talk about this idea of spending about 3 years to develop a brand. If you're creating like a new thing to teach a certain type of thing, you spend a year developing the first product. Then you spend a year developing the second product. Then you spend a year developing the third product. They're all interrelated, different price point products, but you're teaching yourself how to automate it, how to sell it, and how to deliver the best product available. And that's the minimum time you should be spending if you're developing a new product.
Yeah. Right. And I think, I think we get in this mode that we've got to constantly be coming out with lots and lots and lots of new products, and we forget to try to sell the ones we already have.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that the menu is really important, because it reminds you, oh yeah, I have this stuff that I'm not promoting.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to do that.
And when you're goal setting, you should be talking about, okay, I need to make sure that I have marketing budget for my pre-existing stuff, because especially as small business owners, we can't afford to put all the work and brain power that we do and let it go aside. And authors are horrible at this. It's like once the book is released and done, they've started the next book and they've forgotten about what they're working on or what they've worked on in the past. And it's all these hours of work that just get thrown away.
Yeah, I see that a lot with authors.
Yeah, authors are the worst I've seen for that. And like artists in general.
Yeah, like they'll promote insanely for like a week or two, and then like they never mention it again. Or like, I see this with a lot of, like indie game designers, or even like
creative people who sell creative goods in general.
Yeah.
Artists are like, and artists might even be worse than authors, because they're like, oh, here's my newest thing. Please buy it on my Etsy store or wherever it is. And then they post it once in a couple social media sites and they disappear, and they're creating the next one, and they don't try and sell the stuff that they make.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have online stores do that, where, like, look, I listed this new thing. And then you don't hear about their Etsy store again until they list the next thing. Or people, that are doing digital products, like on something like Gumroad or through their own sites. Look, I have this thing. And then they never promote it again. And so, you want to make sure that part of, your time budget and your master schedule is constant promotion. And that's where something like, like Edgar comes in really handy, because I'll tell you, like over the last couple weeks, with Jeff being really sick, we haven't done a lot of promotion for anything. The thing is, we actually haven't added to it. Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like all the promotion that's gone out for like the podcasts, everything that we're doing on Twitter and Facebook, it's all automated. And it saved my butt the last couple, because the other show had 2 great weeks when I was sick. And I was stoked, and it helped keep me going just enough to get new episodes done, to get webinars done. Because to be honest, I didn't create any of the marketing stuff for the 2 new episodes I created, which I normally always do. So, you want to make sure you're always promoting, You know, like we said, like we were talking about the Facebook episode of the show. So last Monday when our episode came out, you know, we were like, oh, wow, the downloads are amazing this week. And we realized that it was actually an old episode that was doing really well that Edgar was sharing.
Yeah, we were getting the normal downloads we'd expect for a new episode being released for our existing audience. But the extra numbers were because Edgar threw out something that caught people's attention at the right time, at the right place.
Right. So, you know, even as you're developing new products, make sure that you're still promoting your old products.
And if you have a blog or you have free content you give away too, know which ones make sense to share out all the time and share them out all the time.
Exactly. So, you know, if you want to keep this discussion going, if you have any questions about this, please make sure to join our Facebook group.
And I think one more time, go over just the list of items again, just the general process.
You know, as we're wrapping it up, you know, these are kind of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing in the development process. So make sure you've got a list of current products and services. Make sure that your customers understand what it is you do. Brainstorm your new ideas. These should be more topical things. Then share those with your audience and see what resonates with them. Incorporate their feedback and determine the delivery method for those products and services. And then share the product or service with your audience for more feedback. Okay, the feedback element is critical. You know, Facebook groups are great for that. So, you know, one thing that you can do if you want to continue this discussion, you know, or if you want kind of a sounding board, you know, if you've got some ideas, check out our Facebook group. It is facebook.com/groups/smallbizlife. And we'd love your questions. We'd love your feedback on this episode. And we'll see you again next week. Take care. Thank you for listening to Small Biz Life. If you enjoyed the show, please take a few minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Please visit smallbizlife.com to view today's show notes, take this week's poll, join the Facebook community, follow us on Twitter, or submit a question for the mailbag. Support the show by checking the resources page or by going to smallbizlife.com/Amazon whenever you shop.
This was Small Biz Life.